So yesterday we talked about this Devers deal the entire show. One of the most shocking trades you'll hear of, just coming out of nowhere. The timing, the player involved, the lack of return for the player. Any way you slice it, a terrible return. And two things that I heard. Well, one thing I think and one thing that I heard. One thing is that, if you got anything back for him, you could say in the aggregate, we believe these three pieces as a total add up to more than the one that even though they're not as good.
Yeah.
But since you got nothing back, that's not an argument. And the second thing was, everyone I heard nationally talking about this, baseball people were flabbergasted at how stupid it was. And one guy worked with Sparky Anderson. He was talking about how he worked with Sparky Anderson in Cincinnati. And he was saying that Sparky Anderson, what he did was, he said, you need stars. And he said what he did with Cincinnati is he'd take Joe Morgan, he'd take Johnny Bench, he'd take Pete Rose, and he would use them as like a tribunal. And he would sit down, and before they did anything, he'd clear it with those guys. Because he said, try as you might to win in baseball, the guys that are winning games for you are as the season goes on, for a season, for a playoffs, are the stars. And the more you involve the stars, the more the team will ride. It's not about the jabroni lunch pail middle reliever. It's about your stars. And that's Sparky Anderson, who's a pretty good major league manager, even though he looked very old. Even when he was a young man.
Even in his 40s.
Yeah,
very old.
Sun-beaten Sparky Anderson.
Yeah.
All right.
Craig Breslow knows what he's talking about, and he understands what's going on with this whole Devers thing. He was a big part of it.
Yeah, in that he actually did it. Other than that, the knowledge is a little slim.
To quote our good friend Jake from Boston, he did the thing.
Yeah.
He did the thing that moved Rafael Devers for nothing. So, finally, speaking yesterday, 24 hours plus after the deed was done, speaking last night, Craig Breslow said,
I understand, why the initial reaction would be that, it'd be tough to sit here and say when you move a player of Rafi's caliber, when you take that bat out of the lineup, how could I sit here and say that, we're a better team? And I acknowledge that.
Okay, so
wow, thanks.
Acknowledging right from the jump,
good.
You made the team worse. Why did you make the team worse? Why was it necessary to move Rafael Devers? And again, not to trade for him, because to call it a trade does the whole thing a disservice and an injustice. It wasn't a trade. It was just getting rid of Rafael Devers. So why get rid of Rafael Devers?
We couldn't find alignment with Rafi, is the truth.
Oh, this is Sam Kennedy,
yes.
By the way. This is Sam Kennedy now.
We couldn't find alignment with Rafi, is the truth. We all worked at it over the last several months, going back to the off season, starting with Alex Cora and Craig and the staff, and then up to me and all the way up to John Henry.
So they were involving John Henry in what? Where Rafael Devers was going to play in the infield, or how he was going to bat? What?
They threw Henry in there because he made that trip to Kansas City. I think that's where Henry's involvement actually came in. He had that 5-minute conversation with Devers to try and explain to him how he wanted things to be in Kansas City.
Okay.
I don't think Henry was involved in any discussions with Devers beyond that.
It wasn't just about alignment. It was about inflection.
Yeah.
We worked at it. We had a different vision for him going forward than he had, and we couldn't get there. We couldn't find alignment, and we reached that inflection point, made the decision to make a big move.
Yeah, they said alignment something like 9 times between them.
Yeah, that the media, the pro Red Sox media used flexibility a lot yesterday. And the Red Sox buzzword was alignment.
Which is another sign of being stupid, is when you so categorically and obviously have decided on a line of speaking and then you just use it over and over and over again and expect people not to pick up on that.
Gerard Mayo's, by the way, was collaboration. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a very savvy media thing to do. I mean, unless you're in politics and then you can just come up with a phrase and then, but when you're doing a press conference, it's a little see-through that
Well-
you've had a meeting where we're going to say this over and over and over again.
Repeating the word alignment sounds a lot better than we couldn't make up our minds what to do with them, and we kept changing our minds. Very difficult to align when you change your mind every couple of weeks about where guy is going to play, as opposed to just letting your best hitter hit and maybe configuring things around him so that bend over backwards. No. But you also don't have to jerk the thing around to the point where it becomes a joke to everybody. And people, the most diehard blue-collar guys looking at this saying, who at the beginning said, you know what, Devers is being a prima donna. He can switch. He can play a different position. He can move. After a while, even those guys are like, stop jerking him around. Just leave him alone.
Have you heard all the guys that have called into the station and gone like, "Oh, this is ridiculous. I work in the corporate world." Like, okay, well, all right, then I'm a dentist, and so I can relate to Rafael Devers. Like, so you work in the corporate world, so you would know nothing about what's going on with Rafael Devers. I've heard at least 3 people call in and go, "This is ridiculous. I work in the corporate world." First of all, congratulations. Unlike everyone else, you work for a corporation. That must be interesting. Unlike all of us who don't work for corporations. You mean you're an American citizen working for a corporation? This is
from your cubicle. You know all about this.
Yeah. Well, no, you're not a small business owner. That's interesting. And so,
if you work for Morgan Stanley, or if you are working the checkout at the Shell, you're both working.
Yeah, you're working for a corporation. Yeah. So I'm glad you see that. So you have no idea what's going on. It to be a multi-million-dollar lifeline to a billion-dollar organization, you have a different set of protocols. And if you just see it written out how much they screwed this up from the beginning, it's really something. Like, you can go, well, you can simplify it to go, he wouldn't move to first. And then that sounds terrible. Oh, why would he move to first? But then if you read about the timeline of all the jerking around and lack of planning and screwing around that they did, it makes the organization seem terrible.
Well, it wasn't just them, though, Fred. Back to Breslow.
Oh.
What about Devers' side of this?
There were times during the course of conversations with Rafi's camp, where they had indicated that perhaps a fresh start would be best for both sides. We were committed to trying to work through this. And like Sam said, ultimately we weren't able to achieve that alignment, but this does represent that chance to reset on our end and for Rafi to get a fresh start.
Oh, I didn't know he wanted a trade. Oh, players never request trades, especially Red Sox players, especially great hitters for the Red Sox.
Well, it seems
Manny
like
Ramirez, who asked for to be traded every day.
He was really putting their feet to the fire too. That in the course of talks, it was brought to their attention that maybe at some point he would like to like to move on.
I just wanted. I didn't see this. I don't know if it was asked. Did anybody ask them? Was there a specific point in time where they decided to trade him? And if the answer was no, then the question is, why did you just drop him like a bad habit for nothing? Did anyone ask him that?
Well, let's see. Let's finish off what I have here while I take a look, because in addition to not getting anything back, or because they got nothing back, this means you're giving up, right, Craig?
This is in no way signifying a waving of the white flag on 2025. We are as committed as we were 6 months ago to putting a winning team on the field and competing for the division and making a deep postseason run.
Just as committed. Okay.
Yeah, and by that is we dumped all our money and got rid of our best player and replaced him with literally nothing.
Oh, God.
We one kid's in Worcester and the other one's hurt, and it will get hurt again. Watch.
We have this enormous hole in our lineup we decided not to fill.
Yeah, and by the way, this winning streak we've been on has been predicated entirely on offense. I mean, they've really been letting it up offensively.
I know. They have 6 wins in a row. They've scored a total of 17 runs in those 6
They
games.
had 4 hits last night. It's a real. And then how many did they? I was at the game, but I don't even know how many they had on Sunday against the Yankees. Obviously, not a lot. So, I mean. What, they win 2 games, 2-0 in a row?
Back to back, yes.
Yeah, so,
Sunday and last night.
Yeah, so congratulations, that offensive juggernaut that you've created.
They had 6 hits on Sunday and 4 hits last night.
Yeah, it's a real murderer's row.
Well, you're going to give some of these young players more at-bats like last night.
And a high fly ball. That's driven deep to right center. It's back there. She is gone. Home run, Roman Anthony. Number 1. Red Sox quickly on the scoreboard. What a moment for the kid. He gets to Logan Gilbert and knocks it out of the ballpark.
Yep. Then that was half of the offense of the night.
Mm-hmm.
They would double up that score and end up winning 2-0 last night.
Yeah.
Against the Mariners.
They've
in
won
Seattle.
6 in a row. They've scored 17 runs, and the difference is the pitching has only given up 8 in those 6 games. So that, of course, will last them the rest of the season.
Yeah, you give up 8 runs in 6 games, chances are you're going to win. So, congratulations to keep that going. Ridiculous. They're ridiculous. They
better not take credit for this. They better not say, well, we knew this was going to happen the whole time.
What, they knew that they were going to beat Seattle?
No,
congratulations.
They knew they were going to get a pitching role like this. They knew that Lucas Giolito and Brian Bayo would pitch out of their minds on back-to-back
But I don't
games.
understand what that has to do with getting rid of Devers. So your pitching's good. Well, great. Then you have your best hitter in the lineup, too. He hit a home run on Sunday. He's still contributing.
They didn't get anyone to replace him in that lineup. A lineup that wasn't exactly great to start with. And this is a brilliant baseball move.
Didn't get anyone to. No, they didn't get anyone, period. They got nothing.
That's what I'm saying.
And
you
still,
have utility infielders and outfielders in the middle of that lineup.
They just got rid of them.
Abraham Toro and Romy Gonzalez. These are your 3, 4, and 5 hitters.
No.
And they also, by the way, aren't going to play these kids anymore. It doesn't create any kind of freedom. They're not playing against left-handers. That's just the way it is.
Well, yeah, they're still going to bring them along, and they're going to follow that game plan. But it
they're
just makes
committed.
it easier.
No,
the games that they do play, it makes it easier for them to play them.
You should have heard Roach spinning his wheels on here yesterday, trying to come up with.
I heard a little bit of it.
Coming up with an idea of what was going on.
Well, the Red
just
Sox,
repeating the same thing that was texted to you. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't open up anything for anyone. It doesn't. There's no justification of it. Fine, you want to get rid of him, but don't get rid of him for nothing. Well, we were able to dump his whole contract. So what? So that's great for the owner. He doesn't have to pay the guy, but how is that good for the fan base? You didn't keep a little bit of the money and get something in return. Oh, don't worry. We'll go out and get something at the trade deadline. Who? And then you got to trade for that too. So you're going to give up assets in addition to Rafael Devers. And instead of just giving money and getting assets back, why? Why wouldn't you keep the assets you have and give the money away and get things in return? Well, now we have all this financial flexibility. Okay, well then why didn't you use that financial flexibility to get players back for Rafael Devers? Because you don't have any intention of doing that. You're going to have to give up a lot to get a lot. That's what the trade deadline is. That's what the offseason trades are. They're trades. You're giving up something for something else.
It's not a theft deadline. It's a trade.
Right. Exactly.
They're committed to winning. I don't know what you're talking. I just heard the boss say it. They're committed to winning.
And you gave up your Hall of Fame asset for nothing.
It's not a donation deadline either.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Red Sox analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.